She
All
does
right.
that watching the news.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we are recording and I can edit anything.
Okay.
So we are here today with Shana, and Shana has been an incredible client and has had a lot of success. So we figured we would do a video testimonial. Say hi, Shana.
Hi.
Now, I know you very well, but people watching and listening obviously don't know you. So I'm going to ask you questions you know I already have the answers to, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So tell everybody what do you do for a living?
I am an 11th grade English teacher.
And how long have you been teaching?
12 years.
Holy smokes, 12 years. I didn't even know it was 12 years. You got a lot of patience teaching for 12 years.
You fake it till you make it.
So what were your goals coming into working with me? What were your goals coming into the program?
I wanted to have a better understanding about how food works. Being a former competitor, I understood that food was science, but what I didn't know how to do was how to do it on my own. I focused so much on following a regimen that someone else created for me that I never really understood how everything worked. Mm-hmm. So it was either complete success or it was an utter failure. And the complete success was usually when I was following something else, and the complete failure was when I was trying to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand how everything worked. If I ate a donut, I looked at it as being a complete failure, and then that would spiral, because then it would be, well, I already screwed up for today, might as well keep it going. Mm-hmm. And was never able to really fully grasp what I was supposed to be doing.
So then how did that affect your day-to-day life?
I fell off the regimen. I cared, and then I didn't. I would follow a day where everything was great. I'd go for a week, and then I'd say, you know what? I'm good for a week. Let's do a cheat. Let's do something as a treat. Mm-hmm. And that was the spiral. And then it would be months before I could actually feel as though I was actually back on track, and it would still only last for a few days because I wasn't thinking about why I was grabbing that cheat. I looked at it as a reward, and that was never something that effectively worked for me. Mm-hmm. But yet I continued to do it.
Yeah. So did you always feel like you were like constantly thinking about food, like measuring and second guessing and all of that?
Always, because everything was about, especially on the competition side, everything had to be exact.
Yeah.
So there were hours that were spent on the weekends prepping, measuring, portioning, freezing, shopping. It was a lot. And then to try to look at it as I really should do that, but there's no reason to, because I don't have that end game. It was having that reward again. What was I looking for? And at some point, I just stopped caring about why I should be doing something or what I should be doing, because there wasn't that finish line. And I'm changing to my finish line is actually just having a happy, healthy life. It didn't have to be a tangible walking across a stage or crossing a finish line. There was actually a goal. It just wasn't something that was as tangible as what I was thinking it needed to be. It doesn't need to be a smaller waistline. Well, that is a plus. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about realizing that you have the power to change what you do, and food allows for a lot of that, because food can be your downfall, but it can also be your savior.
Absolutely. I always say, well, your food, especially in difficult times, I use the word anchor. Mm-hmm. It really can play a significant role in allowing you to stay in charge. Like it's so positive, but I think up until you get the training that you got, it sort of can be a very big nuisance.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Like another task to complete.
It does.
Yeah.
And when you're already stressed, it's another one of those things where when you think that, you look back at all of those other things. I am analytical in somewhat nature. I like to look at past results, and I would continue to try to do something and then fail. And I would always say, well, what's the point of even trying again? Because clearly I wasn't successful the last time. So that plays with your mindset. And it really is all about mindset, realizing why you're doing something that you're doing.
Well, that was going to be my next question was, before we began, what were your bigger fears or concerns? And it sounds like one of them definitely was the repeat of failing, right? Because it's like you've done this time and time again. And you're like, again, you're a smart woman, you're a teacher of 12 years, but you also know a lot about food. Like, you know a lot about nutrition. So was that the only fear that you think that you had kind of coming aboard, was the fear of failure, or what else? Was it like maintaining, or like, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into? Like, what is she going to do with me? What was going through your mind?
It was a little bit of all of the above. And then then it's also as I'm doing this, as I start to think about why I'm doing things, am I going to find things about myself that I don't like? You know, sometimes that things that you don't recognize about yourself that turn out to be flaws are not things that you really want to acknowledge. But sometimes you have to acknowledge those in order to actually become successful. And I noticed through mine that one of my major flaws was emotional eating. Things got hard, and I used food as that anchor, as that comfort. And I wasn't logically choosing my food. I would eat something because it was there and because it gave me some sort of sense of control. Well, I'm going to have some macaroni and cheese because I can. And I would, but there was not anything more to it. It was a very empty search. And I was fearful that once you start to like dig in a little deeper, you start to recognize things about yourself that maybe you would rather keep hidden.
It's never easy to kind of open up. I don't call it a wound, but just for analogy purposes, it kind of is, you know, like, you know, there's something there that needs some TLC. You know, it's not fun, not just recognizing it, but then telling somebody else about it. You know, letting somebody else in on that problem, or problems, plural. So it does take some guts, you know, but hopefully you found that it wasn't quite as painful as what you initially thought it was going to be. I mean, you grasped onto everything so quickly, and I think it was a matter of you just accepting that you can trust yourself more than you were giving yourself the opportunity to. Tell me sort of what other things that, well, I know, but tell everybody else. What are some of the things that you kind of took away from your coaching? What are some valuable lessons that you learned, either about yourself, about your body, knowledge, etc.?
Well, you can have those things that you want. Yes, I did compete twice. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be a competitor again. I don't need to live that lifestyle if I'm not going to be crossing that stage. I don't need to eat the chicken and green beans repeatedly for days and get completely bored of my food just because I feel like I have to get some sort of control back. The control comes in recognizing why you're eating and what you're eating. And I notice that I eat when it's there. So if the food is there, especially if I don't have to pay for it, I will typically eat it. And it's one of those things that I needed to consciously be aware of what I was putting on my plate, why I was putting on my plate. Did I really want it, or was I just eating it because it was there? Or was I eating it because of something else that happened that day where I had a fight with a student that I was taking personally? Am I eating it because of that, or is it because I just legitimately want it? And it came down to if I legitimately wanted it, that's when I put it on my plate. I realized you have to actually think more about your food. You can't just reach and grab and hope that everything's going to work out fine. You still have to be in control, but in a different way.
I think a lot of people, when they hear, if they hear you say, you do have to think about it, I think some people might be worried that they're already thinking about it all the time. Why would they want to think about it anymore? And, you know, what was your experience? I mean, I know initially, as with anyone that goes through our consulting, there's an initial investment of thinking, but you're thinking far less about food these days than you ever have.
Which is funny because I had to put more thought into it before, but now it's I need to think about what I want to eat. I have to think about things that I want to enjoy because, as you stated repeatedly in our sessions, is that food is for nourishment. It's both emotional nourishment and it's physical nourishment. So if we start depriving ourselves of that emotional nourishment, it's going to somehow react into the physical nourishment part. I'm going to start making those poor choices because of the link between the two, or because I am making those better choices. There's more emotional soundness into it as well. I actually feel, even though I don't have a meal plan and I don't have anything measured out or portioned out, I've not touched a measuring cup in weeks. I feel more in control of it. I have eggs, bacon, and toast for breakfast every morning, and I love it. I have cottage cheese and dairy and love it. And I'm finding things that I used to love. Potatoes were my vice, everything in every potato form possible. And it just doesn't work well for my body. I realize that if I eat it, I have to realize there are going to be effects, but it's not an effect that I enjoy to have regularly. So once you start doing analysis, and when you start to realize that when you're eating relatively cleanly and enjoying it, you can find the things that you do enjoy that don't cause any sort of negative backlash. And it's kind of awesome. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think a lot of people, it's always interesting to see what they initially liked and ate, and then through the process they realize that they actually don't like what they eat.
Yeah.
They were just sort of going with it, and they feel maybe it was just familiar or safe. Like in your case, I think that was definitely something that was going on. You knew it, you've done it time and time again, but in the end, it really didn't interest you quite as much as what you thought.
No. Well, and you even have that, everyone that I know at least, suffers from well, if it doesn't happen quickly, then why should I even stick with it? Because especially for competition diets, within like 3 weeks, you're seeing really, really drastic changes, and you can feel as though what you're doing is working. And it's not true for lifestyle changes. They're slow and steady, and it's more of an emotional strength that's occurring, not that physical change. And so once you realize that, I am actually feeling better, I actually am in control, and I'm not making those choices, that actually is a victory. The losing 6 pant sizes in 3 weeks or whatever craziness might happen, that's not the victory, because you can't maintain that. It's the ability to be able to maintain, and that sense of victory in conquering, your quote unquote demons.
Yeah. And we all have them when it comes to food, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Myself included.
I come from a family of emotional eaters. So
yes. I'm working with your mother. I know. She's doing awesome though. She's rocking.
Loves it too.
She's doing so good. That's so funny.
But it's one of those things where, you live what you grow up with, especially if you don't talk about it. And with my mom, she didn't know how to talk about it, because she knew things needed to change, but she didn't know what she needed to change. And so we always talked about that changes need to happen, but for both of us, and neither one of us really knew how to go about doing it.
Yeah.
Not without depriving and counting points or counting or weighing or, it is about decision making, but it's not, it doesn't have to be as formulaic.
Absolutely. And, recognizing where sort of everything stems from doesn't have to be super painful or like a long process. It's just an awareness. Like there's a reason why you finish all of your food on your plate. As long as you make the recognition, that's like step one, and then you move on. So there's like no blame. I think a lot of people fear that they're going to have to like go through therapy of like how they grew up and all this stuff to like get where they want to be. And it really doesn't have to be that complicated. It's just kind of connecting some dots.
Right. And there might be some intrinsic motivation that does occur through that. Like you will probably find some connections in your youth that might not be as easy, but it's usually you do it on your own. You recognize what you want in your own time.
Yep. That is the beautiful thing about it. So we're definitely not thinking about food as much. How has like your meal preparation changed? What about like other things that for you weren't always easy to get through, like the dining out? Like talk about your Cheesecake Factory experiences.
Cheesecake Factory. I watched it. Cheesecake Factory, vice. Big vice right there. I love cheesecake. I love the sweetness of it. I love the flavors that they put together. And I went in knowing I wanted a piece of cheesecake. So I made the choices at lunch that would make that not as bad. So I had my chicken sandwich, but I didn't even have them bring the bread because I knew I would eat it. I had a salad instead of French fries as my side, knowing that I was going to have that cheesecake at the end. And per usual, I ate the entire cheesecake and I regretted it. It was one of those where I was like, I should have been more mindful about that. I should have had my half a piece, brought it home for another day, but had my half a piece, and I probably would have been much more, I should say, my stomach would have enjoyed mine a lot better. Just because when you get used to it, that kind of food doesn't really agree with you as much anymore.
Yeah.
But still enjoyable while you're eating it. So sometimes you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah. So you're able to though now go into your favorite places like the Cheesecake Factory and not feel like, am I going to quote cheat today and enjoy myself? Like it's just every day is sort of like the same day. Like you just make a decision, what's important to me right now. And then it's not a panic. So, and it doesn't have to be this all out situation. Because before, when you went to the cheesecake, it would be like, you're dang right I'm going to have some cheesecake, and you're dang right I'm going to have that whole chicken sandwich, and you're dang right I'm going to have all of those fries, right? But now it's like much easier for you to just go in and know what's important to you, what you want to have to eat there, and then be able to make decisions accordingly.
Right.
Yeah.
And make those decisions to where I don't regret it, because I was that victim where and I use the term victim loosely, but I was a victim of my own decisions. I would make those decisions and then I would feel like that ultimate failure. And then I would be in almost like a state of self-loathing after that. Well, I shouldn't have eaten that. And you start counting all of those calories in your head, and it's not worth it. You spend half of your time living in the past about decisions that you made. You are going to miss all the things that are coming up in the future. So it's about making those decisions in the present and realizing why you're making them. That actually, it seems so simple, but yet it's life altering.
It is. I think everything that we talk about is simple in theory and in concept, but it's not necessarily easy to just do it.
No, not at all.
But you did it. You really were very instinctive at being able to absorb everything. I think that you were just kind of primed and ready. You were just ready for the information. You soaked it up like a little sponge. It's great. It made everything very easy. So how about your meal preparation today? I mean, because before you were like cooking for hours and hours, and you were measuring and you were putting it in containers for the entire week. I remember I almost fell over on my chair whenever you told me how long you're in the kitchen and everything that you were doing for you and Larry. How has that changed for you?
Now Sunday, I will still make one of my favorite recipes is that beef barley stew.
You and your mother are obsessed with that freaking recipe.
Oh, so awesome. And especially in winter, it's hearty and it's comforting and it's just so good. I'll put that on the stove, but that takes 20 minutes of prep and an hour of cooking. So it's not really that much. And sometimes I'll portion it out and freeze it especially if I have that 8 days, that the later days don't go bad. But I am maybe spending, and that's if I'm standing in the kitchen, not while it's cooking, maybe an hour. Yeah. Even in the morning for my carrots and cottage cheese, I will put that together before I leave, and it's maybe 5 minutes. Yeah,
if that.
If that, right. And that's if I am having one of those mornings where I forgot that I needed to grab the carrots out of the refrigerator. That does happen.
We all have those. That's great.
But it's what used to be between the two of us on a Saturday, probably about 6 hours of cooking and portioning and preparing. And now it's down to, for the whole week, it's even when you count cook time, and I'm still doing other things while it's cooking, 2 minutes or 2 hours total. Yeah.
Which is like nothing. And that's, like you said, not even actually physically doing the work. It's just from having nothing to having everything you need, 2 hours. So that's pretty easy. I'm glad you said that, because again, people think that having a healthy lifestyle involves all of those hours of prep because they've did it before, some rigid program, or they've seen other people and they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't have the time. Nobody has the time to do that nor the ones to do that. So I'm glad that we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also even because my meals for the last few weeks have even been spaghetti. And so you make the spaghetti sauce yourself. You don't buy the store-bought thing. And then you experiment. I found black bean pasta where you get 25 grams of protein in a serving. And it looks a little crazy, but it tastes like regular pasta.
That's so great because you are experimenting. Before you would not experiment because that would require more work and energy to figure out how you would make it work and all of the planning around your everyday meal plan, right? So now you're trying all of these different things. It's like a whole other world, right? With healthy food. It's like, I've been missing out on all of this.
Well, and I've always read labels, but the labels, I always looked at the calories. Now I'm looking at the other things. Look at the fiber, look at the potassium, look at the protein. It'll mitigate the carbs in the long run because everyone teaches you that carbs are bad. I've done low carb. Low carb is not fun. Low carb is I do low carb and maintain the type of life that I want to lead. So I have to have them, and it's about making those smart carbs.
Yeah.
So the black beans and the cottage cheese and the barley, that it's just, and the Ezekiel bread. I mean, come on, who would have ever thought that you could have cinnamon raisin Ezekiel bread every morning?
Right?
Enjoy every bit of it. So I
know, that's so good. I love that stuff. I love it. They need to make bigger loaves though, because they're like so teeny tiny.
I know, right?
Like, come on. All right. So I want you, if you don't mind, what is maybe some advice that you would give somebody else that's out there that is struggling with their weight? What would you advise them?
Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. And it's allowing yourself to use that knowledge so that you can lead the better life. Because if you're sitting there, we all look in the mirror and we look at things that we don't like about ourselves. We see the pimple on our forehead, or we see the waistline that isn't as small as it should be, or we see the fat roll or whatever. But it's not about that. You can take the steps to make those go away. And once you realize that you're empowering yourself rather than self-loathing, that's the victory. When you take that first step to having control, you are no longer reaching for that ice cream because you feel like you need it. You're reaching for that ice cream because you want it. You're making the smarter choices that will still fulfill those cravings and still being able to hang out with your friends and have a beer, and slowly you'll look in the mirror and you'll see those things start to change. You'll see that fat roll that doesn't exist anymore. That waist that's getting
so true. I just got chills. Because it's so true. I mean, I literally just had this conversation with somebody else the other day. I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. But I had one, she's going to do a testimonial for us too, because I wrote it down, and she was like, if we didn't go through this, nothing would ever have been good enough.
Right.
Even if like she met her weight, like she would still find things that she wasn't happy with. And maybe that would have been how she got there, and now what she needs to do to sustain it. Like something, it would never have been enough. She said, the biggest thing that I learned that I need, that now that I need to just be successful is just be. I just needed to love myself and just be. And I was like, amen, sister. It's so true, but like, it's hard to believe when you're not, you're not really in the consulting and you're not in that sort of mental place to think, what the heck are you talking about? Just be. But when you go through it, you'll understand.
It's very true. And I have the added pressure of, I have a man in my house who constantly makes changes for the better. He's constantly in these things where you see the physical changes as a result of diet. Now his is that restrictive dieting that I really don't have the patience or the energy for anymore. But you still see it, and there's that comparison. Even though it's completely different scenarios, you still make those comparisons because we're women. We always make comparisons.
Yes, we do.
in whatever way, shape, or form, we always rely on that validation, whether it be the number on the scale going down, the pant size going down, or someone saying, hey, you look good today. We always, unless you are super strong, and I want to meet someone who can actually live life without looking for that validation once in a while. We need some sort of validation, whether logical or emotional. And it's great when you can do it on your own. When you can have that validation when you look in the mirror and go, you know what? I made good choices. I'm going to sleep well tonight. That's the most empowering part. Then you don't need that person to say, hey, your waist looks small today.
Absolutely. It's like you're totally in charge. You're no longer a victim. You're in charge.
Yep. And eating is a control thing. People feel as though if you are dieting that you're not in control. But it doesn't have to be dieting. It can just be eating, and you are still in control. Absolutely.
So changing what a quote plan is and what is control, that all has changed for you. So I'm thrilled, I'm thrilled with your success. So we'll keep tabs on one another, but I really appreciate you doing this testimonial for everybody.
Absolutely.
So that will be a wrap for us. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Say bye, Shana.
Bye.